Okay, conduct of business. Adopt a resolution approving the San Bruno Community Foundation 2016-17 budget.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We're here for City Council approval, review and approval per the City Council's approval powers in the bylaws for the San Bruno Community Foundation. The Foundation did approve the budget that is before you tonight for review and approval. And you'll note that that budget includes the just shy of $1 million of Foundation grants for the scholarship program, for the community grants program that is going to be starting up very soon, strategic grants to the city for pedestrian safety, the facilities vision plan, 324 Florida Park, and an allocation of up to $30,000 for Community Day in the park. There are no other major changes to the budget from last year except tweaking and updating of the various expenses. I've included the staff report from the Foundation along with their approved budget for the City Council's review. And so the City Council's action tonight that we would recommend would be to approve the San Bruno Community Foundation 2016-17 budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mark or action by the council?
Through the chair. I have a couple of concerns. In the strategic grants, I'm not confused really, but I'm concerned that the foundation allocated $30,000 for Community Day, and then the way I'm reading this, it sounds like that may go away, or they're asking us to
They're reducing it.
Pardon me?
They're reducing it.
They're reducing it to $25,000, and then they're asking us to do corporate contributions. I don't understand why. I thought $30,000 was what we were getting, and that was in our budget for the city, and let's see. The city already makes contributions to the Posey Parade with police, and the same, recreation people do a lot of the work for the community center. So we are contributing. The city is a partner, and it's contributing to these 2 days. And I don't see why there has to be any effort to go out and get corporate sponsors, and why the foundation would even consider reducing the money.
Okay, I think Leslie Hadamia is here, and maybe Leslie can give us a little insight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you for allowing me to address you on this point. Just to clarify, this is for next year's Community Day, the $30,000 that was already spent on this past one that was very successful earlier this month. That $30,000 is already committed to and will be coming to the city. So this is looking at 2017's Community Day. And as you recall, when the foundation first proposed underwriting this year's event, we wrote a letter to the council back in January. And at that time, we said that for this year, because it would be happening very quickly and there wouldn't be a lot of run-up lead time, that we would be willing to underwrite the complete cost of the event for this year, which the city staff had projected at $30,000. That's how we came up with that grant amount. But the letter did explicitly state that over the long term, the foundation was looking at a possibly lower contribution with the opportunity to use Community Day as a way to leverage the Community Foundation's funding and reach out to other community partners. This is the type of activity that many of our corporations based in San Bruno may be very eager and willing to participate in financially. Our initial sort of overtures with some of them have led us to believe that. And we think this is a wonderful way to build those partnerships that could lead to other relationships with them in other projects going forward. So we have been very explicit about our desire to consider using this opportunity to raise additional funds from other partners in the community and have community foundation funds at a slightly lower level. We did want to see, though, what the actual cost of the event ended up being for this year. So when we passed our budget earlier this month, it was actually before Community Day had happened. So our budget included the full $30,000 like the 2016 allotment. But we wanted to then, once the entire event went through, we saw what worked, what didn't work. Maybe there were other areas that the city would be interested in improving and would need additional funds. That would all be taken into consideration to determine this coming year's budget allocation. So the amount was budgeted at $30,000, but we were looking to reevaluate once we were able to see what happened with this year's event.
So given that logic, are you saying that if the city shows that the overall cost is, say, $50,000, that the foundation would be willing to give the city $50,000?
We'd have to revisit that. I can't speak on behalf of the board. So we would be willing to talk with the city about that if that truly were the cost of the event. But as we said, we do believe that there are opportunities to get additional sources of funding from the community to help support this event. So that if the actual costs of the event are over 30, it may be that the foundation would put up a certain amount, maybe higher than we originally anticipated, with the anticipation that we would get community partners to contribute the balance.
Okay, and what if we don't get any other sponsor, and the true cost of the event is $50,000?
I would have to take it back to the foundation board and revisit that.
Okay, so you're asking the council to approve this budget the way it's written, but can we put a piece in there that says that it could be up to something else? Because, I'd hate us to go forward because we didn't put any money in our budget for a community day. So if going forward, we don't get a sponsor, the true cost is $50,000, and the foundation is only willing to do $25,000, does that mean that the city's not going to do it? Because, we were discussing not paying $27,000 for a work effort. I don't support the way this is written. I understand the letter, I understand what you're saying, I understand the desire to find corporate sponsors, but this puts the city in a bind in many ways, I think, in my personal opinion. That's my opinion.
Through the chair.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's pretty clear in the brief time the foundation's been in order here that they have been very flexible and frankly very generous with their funds. And I think the key here is 2016-17 budget, and I think Leslie's made it pretty clear that it's easy to revisit those items when we have final costs. We don't know if we're going to have the same day and the same thing, if we're going to enhance it in some way, if we have some of our major corporate sponsors kick in, and I think that's a real possibility. So I support it the way it's written because I think they're asking us to approve their budget, so we have an awful lot of control here ourselves. So I think based on the short prior history, I'm comfortable with it the way it is. Rico?
Through the chair, I was going to say 2 years ago, my understanding is the cost was $36,000. Staff indicated that the cost could be at around $30,000 or $30,000, and that's where the foundation came up with that number. I do recall the letter you're saying if we did it immediately it was X, and if we did it 2 years from now it was going to be Y, because there would be more time to prepare and plan. So I think without the costs, I don't know when we are able to receive that, or if we're going to receive something that, because there were incomes from the wristbands, and I don't know the actual true costs. But I'd like to see what the costs are, an evaluation of the day, as well as what staff would recommend going forward. I think that would answer Leslie's question, so she could go back to the board with more clear data. But I do concur with the mayor that I think they're reasonable and have been a great partner, and so But we need the facts as you need the facts, because I don't know either. So couldn't even tell you what to go back to your board with, but I understand you can't supersede what they've authorized you.
Do you have anything else, Irene? Because I was going to suggest, is there a way to hold this particular amount off to the side and approve the remainder of the budget? They have to get business done, actually.
Well, there are probably a couple of ways to proceed. That would be one way. Another way to proceed would be to recognize, I think, as Mr. Mayor, you have, that the budget is a document that both the foundation can amend and that the city council can review at a later date and approve. And given the fact that there are some costs that maybe aren't known yet and some further evaluation of what the event is going to be like next year, it might be worth using that alternative, that if a budget amendment is required, then the foundation could do that, bring it back to you for approval once that information is presented.
Mm-hmm. So you're suggesting to approve it the way it is with the understanding that we or they can come back to us?
Well, and I think that's right for anything in the budget.
Okay.
You can move it. I don't approve it, but go ahead.
Okay.
All right, I'll introduce the resolution to approve the budget as is.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell,
No.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. All right,
Through
thank
the
you.
chair, before we leave this
Sure.
item, is there a timeline in which council can or is going to receive update
Yeah, so
from the event?
the foundation has requested, and we're in the process of putting together both grant proposals, if you will, for the 4 projects that the foundation originally proposed to the city council in January, and reports on the conclusion of 2 of those projects. One of them, or a semi-completion of one project, the facilities vision plan. There was a pre-planning effort. So we're in the process of preparing a report on that, on the completion of that phase and on the completion of the community day. What I would suggest, if it's the council's interest, is to bring that report back to the city council so you can see the costs and revenues. And as you correctly pointed out, we're looking at net costs after there are some revenues in the way that the event is currently delivered with wristband sales for the rides at the event. We have a little bit of work to do left to produce the final costs and to evaluate how particularly staff overtime costs relate to the Posey Parade versus the Community Day. But as soon as we have that information, we would be prepared to bring that to the council. It's needing to be prepared both for you as well as the foundation anyway, and you could take up further conversation about it at that time.
I think that's a good idea. Do you have an idea what month?
We would have that on your meeting on the 12th.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Leslie, and thank the board, too.